ABC7 and KGO News Talk AM 810 are proud to support the American Sports Institute and the Arete School Webathon.
Hello, I'm Martin Wyatt. On another segment of the Arete School Webathon, we examine the general issue of the roles and responsibilities of professional athletes and teams from the perspective of those we rarely hear from in an in-depth manner, the athletes and team executives themselves. There's another very special group we seldom, if ever, hear from when it comes to the specific issue of athletes being perceived as role models for kids. Rich Walkoff is with this special group right now.
Well, thank you very much, Martin. I appreciate that. Well, whether it's related to positive or negative circumstances, one question you almost always hear regarding the actions of pro athletes and teams is how is this going to impact kids? Professional athletes are often referred to as role models for kids, idolized by those in their formative years. Well, this point was made quite clear a number of years ago when former NBA star Charles Barkley, in a TV commercial for an athletic shoe company, looked directly into the TV camera as if to emphasize he was being blunt and said something to the effect of, "I am not a role model. I am not here to raise your kids." The commercial created quite a stir, provoking a great deal of debate as to whether or not pro athletes were in fact role models and had a degree of responsibility for how their actions impacted the youth. Barkley's friend and former NBA star Karl Malone seemingly ended the debate when he responded to Barkley in a national sports magazine by saying, "You do not choose to be a role model, you are chosen." Malone was basically saying that for pro athletes on the national stage, becoming a role model happens automatically, especially when it comes to kids. While just about everyone acknowledges that the actions of pro athletes do impact kids, rarely if ever have the moms of those kids been asked what they want for their children from pro teams and athletes at the ballparks, at stadiums and arenas and in the public in general, and in the media too. So we've brought together a group of moms to talk about this issue. So moms, welcome. And I'll tell you something, you're all raising kids. Now, Maria, you have two young girls, right? And how old are they, please?
They are 9 and 5.
Okay, and Dahlia, you also have two young girls.
Yes, I do.
And how old are they?
They're 8 and 5.
And Susan?
2 boys, 12 and 10.
Okay, so all in the formative years, all fired up about life, and you obviously have some interest in the sports arena. And the big question now is, are the actions of pro athletes and teams important to you in the context of how their actions impact your child's growth and development? So let's start with you, Susan.
Well,
Maria, excuse me.
Maria, yeah. I found myself reading a lot more sports magazines since I have somebody in my house involved in sports, because before of that I thought that, sport professionals were just into competitions and things like that, but then I learned that they are really impacted my daughter's life, because my daughter is looking up to them, and she wants to do what they do because they're idols.
And how about you, Dahlia?
I think there is a definite impact. You can't avoid it with the media showcasing all of the athletes and what they do. You have reality shows on some of the athletes, I believe, and the commercials and ads, Wheaties. You can't avoid that. I try to really make sure that my children understand that if they are idolizing anything, it would be the success of that athlete and the hard work that came with it. And I try to let them understand that personal life and their actions are very different from their capacity to play tennis, their capacity to be a great soccer player. So I try to make them understand that it's the hard work behind it that put them up there, but their personal actions is not something that we're to discuss. So I do have TiVo in my house, and I try not to let them see all the ads.
Okay, so you're kind of limiting the exposure that they have.
On the personal life, because I think media does cover a lot of information on their public lives, and it's very hard to control that right now. This goes with, I guess, all walks of life, politicians and superstars and all of that. So I really try, and as you say, it's a very difficult thing because they do idolize the athletes.
Sure, and not always are they shining examples of great people just because they're tremendous in their particular sport or endeavor.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, Susan, you have two boys. Maybe a different story than moms of young girls. You tell me.
Yes, I have two boys, and they're both pretty athletic. They're both into baseball, into basketball. And if you ask my 12-year-old son, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a professional baseball player. So he has an uncle who played professionally in the minor leagues for the Cubs. He has a cousin who went on to play college baseball. His father played college baseball, so there's a lot of baseball blood in our home. And he's influenced by that because he sees these baseball players achieving great things out on the ball field. He doesn't have a true understanding of exactly, what these men have done to get to that point, but he has a true admiration for that, and that's what he wants for his life.
And how old are your boys?
12, so that's the 12-year-old who's in 7th grade, and then 10.
Yeah, so very impressionable.
Very impressionable.
Now, are you able to differentiate between admiring the athletic greatness or prowess on the field and maybe some of the issues off the field that are less than savory?
Right, absolutely. So when issues come up about certain professional athletes and some of the things that have happened, we talk about that as a family, because I think the first stewardship that you have as a mom and dad is to your kids, and to bring in your own family values. And when you can talk about your values and how it connects with what the players have done or not done, it brings it home more, I guess.
Yeah, so how about the positive impact? What is it that pro athletes and teams do that you believe have a positive impact on your child, and how does this show up perhaps in your child's behavior? So Maria, you first.
Okay, that's exactly what Dalia was talking before, is about telling them that these people got far in life because of the hard work they did. It's about perseverance. It's about not being perfect from the beginning. They had to really work hard and every day and made a lot of mistakes to get there. So that part at least is a really, really it's a good example that they are having from the athletes. They see them falling sometimes, but getting up and continue to practice.
Unfortunately, when we watch a game on television, we just see the end result. You don't often see the hard work Monday through Saturday to get ready and preparing oneself for Sunday's game or the great match or whatever it is. So it's not as easy to convey to a youngster all the hard work and effort and sacrifice and commitment that is made by a professional athlete to get to that point. But that's something you're trying to instill, or at least make them more aware of, I gather.
That's what they have to do actually with their own practice of sports. Sometimes they are not in the mood of going to the practice. Sometimes they get into a fight with a friend, and that's all part of the development of a career or development just a good sport practice. They have to learn that they will make mistakes, but they have to practice hard.
And Dalia?
I believe there is a lot of positive impact that they can do. One of them is when they show that they're human and they support certain organizations, and some of them do some charity work. And in that instance, I guess the media plays it up or shows it on national TV, and I think that's a very good thing that they're participating. And some of them, like Tiger Woods, I saw him with little children and teaching them golf, and I think that's commendable. I personally we've lived in Arizona before, and like the training camps, for instance, I like to show that to my child to see how hard they work, and they are very natural in the practice. They're not stars per se that you're sitting behind the bleachers and you can't really go near them, and they're just people. So you see how hard they practice, and even for high school athletes, like kids can go up and watch how they practice football. That too has an impact on your child.
Mm-hmm. And you get the sense that they perceive those professional athletes as role models on the field and beyond, or again, able to draw a connection or even separate the two aspects of their being, if you will.
Yes, I think so.
So you think that you can say you can admire their professional excellence as athletes, but separate the fact that they don't often do everything that is as enviable and as noble and as great on the field in the way they carry out their personal lives. I mean, there are two different aspects to...
Yes. I think when they're 8 years old, I think what I try to do is not be one step ahead and not judge the athlete, but if it does come up and they happen to watch an article about let's say the drug issue that came up, then obviously, if you can't avoid that, then you start discussing that. And you say, you know, I believe, and once again, we implement that we think it's a form of cheating, and, you know, for whatever reason. And, well, he's a person, but, you know, just to let you know, we all want to give chances to everyone, but at the same time, that's not something other athletes did.
Right,
and
right.
we don't want to, like, just say all of the athletes did that. So
Yeah.
we try to differentiate the two things.
Sure. And Susan, if your boys are really big into baseball, well, the scandal has been just epic and unfortunate. What a black cloud over our national pastime. So how do you relate what's going on in that public forum to your young boys' pursuit of the game that their uncle and dad were so big into and such?
Right, exactly. In fact, I had a conversation about that with Kyle, who's my 12-year-old, and I asked him about his opinion on that. He goes, well, you know, we really don't know yet, because he still has this very innocent desire to believe that he's still this great baseball player and that he really didn't do anything wrong. And until everything is said and done and it's final, he's still willing to give him the benefit of the doubt until he's completely proven guilty. And so he has, you know, he's a very innocent child, I think, because of that.
Yeah, but ethics and morality come into play here. You wouldn't want your child to cork a bat, to cheat about how old he is to get into Little League or to stay in there, like Danny Almonte did a few years ago in the Little League World Series. He went from superstar to, oh my gosh, he's almost 15 years old and he's supposed to be 12. So you have the ethics that come right down to the level of kids your age. And these are very nitty-gritty issues that can't be avoided. Do you take them head on? You first, Maria.
Yes, definitely. That's why it's important to be involved and know what they are doing. And as I said before, I found myself reading now sports magazines that I didn't read before, and trying to understand what they are reading, what they are hearing, and have the conversation age appropriate. Understand that there are things that for them are going to be all or none. Like, okay, this has to be a good guy or a bad guy. And as I said before, people make mistakes. It's not about not making mistakes. It's what they make about that. Mm-hmm. And having the conversation with the kids that some things happen, but in order for them not to happen, you have to be able to deal with them every day. For example, they go to their practices, they have a commitment to the group. How is that commitment important? Why you have to be respectful to everybody in the team, even if you don't like, why do you have to follow rules? And use these examples that may be too much for them right now to understand, but just to teach them something that it is age appropriate for them. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't follow the rules, there are consequences, not only for you, for everybody around you. So we can use these things that happen to teach them little things that they should be learning in all the other aspects of life.
I guess because these issues have arisen of late so prominently, it's more challenging to be a parent of a child of coming of age in the formative ages and getting involved with sports. So there are a lot of good people making bad choices, which puts a little more pressure on a parent on how you deal with it. So Dahlia, how do you deal with it?
I really, once again, think that family is important, and you always want to just point out to them that they shouldn't be doing that. What they did was wrong. Even if they are a star, they should not have done that. And, you know, kids are astute. They can ask you questions like, why did they do that? And so, you know, it gives you an avenue of explaining to them to their level. They wanted to cheat, and you could go down to their level and say, hey, what if you really wanted to get in this team, and you really wanted a trophy for this freestyle, and, you know, you decided that if you did something to your body, it would make you better. Would you do it? And then make them understand at their own level that it is wrong. And I also try, with my kids at least, to show or emulate more of the sportsmanship of the game, and it isn't really about stardom and how these athletes are almost iconic. And what I want to show them is what is sportsmanship. How do they act when they win? Do not gloat and don't put down the other team. And usually there's really a lot of athletes who are very kind in golf, in tennis, and there are also the opposite that you see. And usually it's an avenue for telling your child that is not how you behave when you're angry that the referee called you out. So no.
Yeah, so it can be very much an educational tool on a lot of levels. because the misfortune and the mistakes of some at the elite level can actually be instructive and educational for the youngsters who may be idolizing those stars or in some way emulating them on the field or in their demeanor, or maybe I want to get that jersey or that number or be like whomever you have out on the ball field. Well, do you think professional athletes really care about the growth and development of your child? Or are they just posturing and imaging and wanting to look good and say all the right things? So Susan, why don't you go first?
That's a really good question. It's a difficult question, too, because I don't know a lot of the professional athletes. But I do believe that, well, one, they're human, and I do think that they want to do good. You know, I think that it is innate in most people and in all people, really. And, but they do have a lot to celebrate about. So if that's what posturing is, and I think that's fine, too. But I do believe that they want to do well and show good examples. And if given the opportunity, and if really given the opportunity to showcase that, I think that would be very beneficial.
And Dahlia?
I think a lot of the athletes, you know, are given too much attention most of the time on their personal lives. And once again, I think that, yes, they do have a lot to celebrate, but they have it in their power to really be a big influence. There's no choice. Once you are a big athlete or a popular one, you probably have a little bit more responsibility now, because a lot of children are going to look up to you. And yes, we are parents, we will also look out for our children, but it would be so much easier if they also inspire them in other ways that are more noble.
Sure. The spotlight is bright and it's unavoidable if you're up there in the prominent big sports of our culture and society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know again if they are. Some of them probably are, but I know they can, because they are parents, they are brothers, they are neighbors, they are uncles, and there is somebody who is watching them all the time. They may not be aware that they are a role model for the whole nation, but they are for sure to those children who are around them. So it is a big responsibility, and I hope they really can be aware of that.
Yeah, recognizing it for sure. Well, what about at the ballpark? What would you like to see from pro athletes and at the stadiums, at the arenas when you go to the game that would perhaps further the growth and development of your child as they aspire to become better adults, better ball players, and better people?
I want them to be true to themselves, be respectful, be aware always that people are watching them, not only how they play with the ball or with whatever they are playing, but most people who go there, they go with their families, they go expecting having a great time, and everything they do, every behavior, every single thing is being watched. So they have to be aware of that, and that's what I expect. I expect them to be a role model all the time. I know it's tough. Maybe they didn't choose that. Maybe they were not aware when they started this career. But like you said before, it's something that happens. You are already. You have been chosen, and you have a responsibility to the people who've been chosen.
I feel terrible for the athletes, but the spotlight is bright, like you say. And yes, I think they should be more careful about language and just go back to the basics of what you learned as a child when you played for fun. And it's all about learning about sportsmanship. And you bring all of the qualities in life. And these children are watching. We're paying for the tickets to watch because we want our children to learn sportsmanship, to go in there to learn about camaraderie, about teamwork, and how everybody works there, and how when they win they're happy, and how when they don't win, how they act. The children are taking this in, and we are too, the parents.
Right, and sometimes maybe more can be learned from the unfortunate or the misfortunes. If you see somebody act out, there was a player in the NFL who kicked another player in the head when he was down, or the slashing of the throat that was banned from the NFL a year or two ago because of its outrageous implications. So some of the behavior that is egregious and terrible and bad, when your children watch that, it can be another reminder of what not to do, as much as the good things that they do are role modeling in a positive way. So the message can work both ways.
I love going to baseball games, and you know, we take the kids down to the park here in San Francisco quite a bit, and there's a lot of things I think that stadiums can do. I'd like to see a little bit more of like pre-game things with the kids. Let them be more approachable to the children. There's been a couple of opportunities where we've come in big groups with other kids and other families, and we've had a chance to meet some of the players, and they just go crazy over that. Then the game itself, then you get to really see what Dolly had mentioned about sportsmanship and how they interact with one another. And it's not just even really the athletes, there's people beyond that. There's the coaches, there's the referees, and just other people that are in the stadium as well. And so I think when you start seeing really good examples at the stadium, they emulate that, and they do the same sort of behaviors at home too.
Yeah, it's a great link when you see the young kids with the pro athletes, because all pro athletes started out as kids, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
We all did.
Yes.
Hey, special thanks to all you moms. It's great to have you here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.